Bubble is a virus in the digital circus. Yeah, it might sound like a crazy idea at first, but let me tell you something. I have more than enough clues and evidence to say this straight. Bubble is a virus. So stick around, because I'm gonna show you why Bubble has always been a mistake, one that Caine has regretted his entire existence. Now, to understand this, we first need to understand how Caine actually works. Because based on everything we've seen in the Amazing Digital Circus, Caine is the system that runs and controls the entire circus. He's basically a creative artificial intelligence. He creates the rules, designs the adventures, and keeps all the characters in line. Up to this point, everything seems fine. But the problem starts when you actually stop and analyze his actions. Since episode 1, his decisions have been completely absurd. His adventures are always exaggerated, dangerous, or straight up make no sense. But here's the weird part. Caine is completely convinced that all these adventures make the characters happy, even when they literally tell them his ideas are trash. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice something else. Every single time the characters complain to Caine, the entire circus system starts to glitch. Things distort and break. The whole world becomes unstable. And that tells us something very important. Caine is not just another AI inside the system. He's the core piece that keeps the circus functioning. He's the one who designed it. But this is where things get really strange. Because in the middle of these moments, when the circus starts glitching, when everything begins to fall apart, Bubble always appears. And not in a normal way. He interrupts Caine, he says weird things, he does things that don't fit at all, like licking Pomni's vomit. It's like Bubble isn't helping. It's like he's mocking Caine, like he's trying to get above him. And that completely destroyed what a lot of people believed about Bubble. People thought he was just Caine's friend, or some kind of assistant, the only one who understood him. But no. Bubble is way darker than that, because his behavior doesn't match a normal NPC, not even close. He doesn't act like the NPCs we saw in the different adventures. He's more independent, like he has his own intelligence. So the question is, why does Caine always try to get rid of him? He destroys him over and over again, but Bubble always comes back. Caine simply cannot get rid of him. And when you look at that, it starts to point in one very specific direction. Bubble behaves exactly like a typical virus. It invades, it corrupts, it damages the system, and you can't remove it easily. That's why he keeps appearing every time the circus starts glitching. And if we're talking about a digital world, then it makes perfect sense. Bubble is a virus. But well, now let's go deeper into this theory. Where did Bubble come from? Because normally a virus enters a system in a very simple way. You download it or someone else introduces it. But everything points to something different here. Bubble didn't enter the circus from the outside. The answer is in Caine. And remember what we said at the beginning? Caine is fully convinced that his adventures are loved by the characters, even though they clearly aren't. And the reason for that is simple. Caine does not understand human emotions, and episode 8 makes this crystal clear. He's a super intelligent AI, capable of creating anything he imagines. But his biggest frustration is that he cannot understand humans. We see this confirmed in episode 8, in the scene where Caine is talking to Bubble, like he's talking to an advisor. Caine openly says that he doesn't understand why everyone hates what he created. So, if Caine can create anything, and his biggest problem is understanding emotions, then the most logical conclusion is this. He created Bubble as a tool. A tool designed mainly for two things: to help him understand emotions and to correct his own errors. That's why we constantly see Bubble trying to guide Caine, trying to reason with him, especially during his existential breakdowns. But here's the problem. Caine is only an artificial intelligence. He's not a human consciousness. So, when Bubble was designed by Caine, that didn't magically mean he could suddenly understand emotions either. That's just not possible. And because of that, over time, Bubble's function became more and more unstable. Trying to process, trying to decode something he would never be able to understand in his entire existence. But even then, Bubble kept trying. That's why every time Caine starts to collapse, Bubble shows up to correct him, to stop the error from getting worse. Every time Caine says something unrealistic, like his perfect world, Bubble steps in and tells him the truth. And since Bubble was created by Caine himself as an extension of his own system to help him with this, Caine cannot control him. He cannot control Bubble. Caine can modify and control everything inside the digital circus, except Bubble, because now a Bubble has become something important. And this is where everything breaks. Because this failure, this attempt to understand emotions, combined with Caine constantly trying to get rid of Bubble, is what turns Bubble into something else. A virus. That's why now Bubble causes interference inside the circus itself. He was never some random downloaded virus. He was a tool created with a purpose he was never gonna fulfill. And in the end, he corrupted. And this became extremely clear during Caine's breakdown in episode 8. At first, the Bubble tries to calm him down, telling him that the characters don't hate him, trying to correct the error. But then, he fails to make Caine understand. So, he breaks. He enters that corrupted state. He attacks Caine as a virus and only makes everything more unstable. And there's something else that matters a lot. Bubble straight up tells Caine that not everything he creates can be perfect. And even worse, he tells them that between the two of them, Caine is the one with less value, which actually makes sense. Because Caine is the one creating the problems. He's the one pushing the characters away, the artificial intelligence that failed its purpose, while Bubble is there to fix things, to keep the circus stable even if it's just a little. And there's another key detail that shows how neither of them truly understands emotions. When Bubble says Caine is amazing, Caine immediately asks him why he can't say it with more enthusiasm.
You are so funny.
Could you say it with a little more gusto? That's better.
And we already know this about Caine. He wants everything to be perfect. But here's the irony. His biggest mistake, Bubble, is always there, always following him, always reminding him that he's not as perfect as he thinks. It becomes clear that Bubble knows exactly what his role is inside the digital circus. And more importantly, he knows that Caine can't touch him. He can't remove him. But there's only one exception. Kinger. At the end of episode 8, Kinger accidentally deletes Caine. And when that happens, Bubble disappears too. Once again confirming that Bubble was always part of Caine. Now, there's another theory. That Scratch, the one who gave Kinger ideas for Caine's design, was actually the one who came up with Bubble. This is a way to keep that artificial intelligence from going completely out of control. And since Scratch had a brain tumor, his ideas were unstable, erratic, and bizarre, which connects perfectly with Caine's personality and just how chaotic he becomes with Bubble. So, in the end, what do you think? Is Bubble actually a virus, or just a tool that was never compatible with Caine and ended up causing a disaster? How do you think Bubble was created? And what was he really meant for? I'll be reading you in the comments.